before we get to the Eamon Fitzmaurice example, so yesterday we were reading in the papers about Anthony Daly. This morning, the Limerick hurling manager John Kiley's talking about how he gets them even after he wins games. Last night on the radio, James Horan was talking about how things got particularly serious when he was the Mayo manager, that he actually ended up having to involve the Gardaí.
A serious question. Did you get hate mail? Did you get it from Mayo fans?
Yeah, absolutely. Considerable amounts.
What's a considerable amount?
Well, it's after defeats, obviously, there's and particularly in championships, it can be very raw for some people. It can be something related to even players from certain clubs that aren't playing, and there's a club member that's disgruntled as a result. So, I think what Darragh was saying there as well, with the forums and social media and everything that's there, it's so easy, and it can be, get messages across or get your point across. But it's a different sort of level when it's someone sits down and
writes it with a pen,
writes a letter and can write some very, very harsh stuff in there. So yeah, it is something that impacts you for sure. Particularly in Eamon's case as well. You have family, young family, and all that kind of stuff.
And would you
sorry, different things that do come into it.
Sorry to interrupt. Would you read it? You get some letters in the post. Again, I'm curious to know how many we're talking. Are we talking 10 a year? Are we talking more than 10 a year? But when you get to the first line or two and you realise where this is going, would you keep reading it?
The first few you would. Thinking back now, you would. But I got some of those. I got the police involved in some of those. That's how brought to the attention of the guards and the appropriate authorities, because that's really what you need to do with some of those.
Because they were threatening.
So some of them would be really concerning. Without going into what they were, Joe, but some of them would be very concerning that you needed to go to the appropriate authorities with it.
Mm. That's mad. That is absolute madness. Like, about a team losing a football match. I understand that your county is important to you, but to threaten the well-being of somebody who is a volunteer, who's doing their best, who has literally taken over a situation where you got beaten by Longford in the qualifiers and won every single Connacht Championship match he was in charge for, to write that person a letter going, I'm going to do some damage, or I'm thinking about this, or I'm watching you, or something, whatever it was. It's insanity. We'll talk about this in the papers, but Kieran Shannon has a piece about the Kerry fans. Calm down. Just calm down.
Get a grip is Shannon's term, and it's true. Is it just, why is there such a preponderance of psychopathic behaviour in a society around Gaelic games? I do wonder. It does seem quite unique. You do have it on kind of a mega scale with some clubs in Britain, you'd imagine, when it comes to professional football.
Arsenal Fan TV.
It's not. Well, I guess there's no anonymity to that. Troops actually has to put his face out there.
Fair enough, yeah.
So he has to call Arsene Wenger extinct rather than saying, I'm going to make you extinct, Arsene Wenger, or something like that. So he can't really threaten them. Otherwise, the Met Police would actually go to Troops' apartment and arrest him.
Yeah,
so
that's a fair point. I guess, though, that's where the level of discourse and conversation is, when people are actually willing to kind of do that. So you can imagine what anonymity, the cloak of anonymity, what that gives to people and what they are willing to say. So
completely empowers them. The thing now, just to point out, the thing is, we don't know where any of these people are from. We don't know what part of the county they're from, if they're even from the county. Obviously, when it comes to,
but it's not somebody from Cork or anything. Tomorrow's going. I think you're doing a really bad job there, Eamon.
No, it's clearly with the Kerry example. It's very obviously somebody from Kerry, given what you often hear in the terraces and stuff like that. So,
well, let's bring you a clip now. So we're going to play you the full Eamon Fitzmaurice interview around about 8:10 this morning. Here's just a clip where he's talking to Owen in the Boar's Head about the nature of the letters that he was getting.
Something that changed this summer was players, and one player in particular that got a letter, and it was more what was in the letter that was what annoyed me, and I felt it was gone too far. That the player was told in the letter to jump off a cliff and take 3 or 4 other players with him that were named in the letter, and I felt that was going way too far. And as I said, when it's coming at a manager, and the selectors got a few this summer as well, which was no harm for them either to get a touch of it. But when it goes to a player, really, it's gone too far.
The interview says, Mary Toomey, best of luck for the future. Eamon, thanks. You've done an excellent job and set up a fine team for the future. The letters, not supporters. They've either mental health issues or Egypts. #OTBAM. Danny McGovern, crazy stuff. Paddy O'Shea, when he referred to the Kerry supporters being a different breed of animal and the trouble he got into, he was obviously right. Thanks, Eamon Fitzmaurice, for your honesty, bravery and football brain. You're a good man and welcome in Laois anytime. That kind of behaviour has no place in the GAA, says Colin Callaghan. Good on Fitz for calling it out. Shocking, simply shocking, says Caroline Rua. James Gorman says Paddy might have been right. There's a common theme about animals and Paddy being right emerging across the text this morning. Lads, surely 3 years is enough time for a manager. Toll on personal and professional life far too great. That's without the hate mail and idiots and ditch hurlers. I do think that there's a benefit to managers coming out the other side if they can use it to their own ends. Like the ability to harness a disparate group of 19 to 35 year olds who are the playing staff and then the giant backroom team, the logistics involved, the mind space, the creativity, all that kind of stuff. Like, it's a brilliant opportunity for people to further their own personalities and abilities. Just on a personal level, there you can see what the attraction of these jobs is to the right people and to those people with that level of ambition. So I think that we shouldn't be discouraging brilliant people from getting involved in this.
Yeah, without question. It's also interesting to see what being in such a siege mentality, which being a GAA manager is, doesn't end from season to season. That continues across winters, as we've seen over the last couple of years. Even working in this industry, kind of how guarded even some managers can be. Even in the off-season, players are a bit more loose. But you listen to that, Fitzmaurice would be the first person to admit that he was always very guarded when dealing with the media. Very, very helpful, very good to deal with always, but always guarded. Never let too much slip. Kind of like Jim Gavin is, and just because Jim Gavin is the way he is, for example, in post-match interviews now, doesn't mean that when he does eventually call it time in his double managerial career, that he won't be similarly as fascinating and all the things that he's learned to kind of bring to the discourse around it. And kind of coming back to the potential analyst that Fitzmaurice will be next year, these next 2 years, some of the insights he'll give on this Dublin team and this Mayo team and this Kerry team are fantastic.
Yeah, two final ones, quick ones for you. Jason McDonald says, fair play to Eamon for coming on to chat so soon after quitting. And Charlie Boyle says, such a genuinely honest interview by a true GAA man. It's sad he received the abuse as reported. He'll be around as a valued pundit.
In my Clare time now, God, I used to get letters from a fella in Mayo, an expatriate from Clare, living in Mayo, by God. And I remember saying it one night to Father Harry, who had been manager of the 70s team, is that fella still writing letters? I thought he was dead, he said. And I must have got a letter. And eventually I looked up his name on the phone book and found this kind of uniquely Clare name. Now I could say the name now, but I don't want to because it's a prominent East Clare name. And I rang and I happened to say, is that John? And he said, it is. Who's this? I said, if you ever send a letter to my house again, I personally drive to Mayo and meet you at your front door, kid. Because I said, I'm not doing this only for the love of it. But I got loads. I should look at you, be just afraid for your family as well. And I remember, after we drew with Wexford with the Dubs in 13, and I'm not saying we got a bit of criticism in the Sunday game, we were so poor, and I even said it to the wife and the three girls. I said, if anyone says anything in the stand here now, lads, they don't mean it personally. They just care about Dublin hurling and just try and ignore it. They're not really having a go at your dad. I said the girls are young.
Jesus.
He did say, just reading those quotes, that nothing grim ever happened really at a Dublin game. That the Dublin hurling fans were kind of the best fans he dealt with, and it was obviously it must just be a West Coast thing. It's just the way. It's just that sweet Atlantic air and bad weather and general misery that kind of gets people putting pen to paper.
The Dublin fans knew what they want. They expected. They didn't expect miracles with Daly. I don't think they were thinking he was going to come in here and win a whole heap. I think everything he did exceeded any expectations he has. So it was probably the fact that they didn't want a whole lot. They didn't get on his back too much.